So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you to this webinar, which is looking at how to engage students learning a foreign language through Sanako Connect. My name is Wendy Adeniji and I work for Sanako UK for David Binns, who is the director of Sanako, which covers the UK and Ireland. And I do a lot of work speaking at conferences, training people in how to use Sanako Connect, and also developing resources to help people to use it as well as possible. And in my sort of other kinds of work that I do, I also write resources for the BBC, Bite Size for French and Spanish, which are my two main languages. So I'm really happy to welcome to this webinar our two speakers for today, which is Sinead Harold and Jill Snook. And Sinead is a fantastic practitioner, and she's a trainer of teachers, and she supports all things Welsh and international languages in the south of Wales. So she works across a large number of schools, helping teachers to teach as well as possible to engage young people, and she works across something called EAS, and I'm sure she'll tell you a bit more about that. And Jill Snook is Head of International Languages at Monmouth Comprehensive School in South Wales and was an early adopter of Sanako Connect and has been using it now for several years to teach the wide range of languages that they teach at Monmouth, which is French, Spanish, German, and Welsh. I think I've got all their languages. So, so we are sort of talking to you today. Our own context is mainly to teach languages that are not English, because English is our own native language, but hopefully you'll see that many of the ideas that we're going to be talking about are relevant no matter what language you teach. And we, as much as possible, are going to try to talk, not just assume that you understand our British context, our English or Welsh context, but that we will sort of explain this is what we do for this particular age group and so on. But if you do have any questions about that, please do ask. So I'm now going to start by passing on to Sinead, and I'm going to show her PowerPoint and share it with you.
Diolch yn fawr, merci beaucoup, gracias, quitos, and thank you, Wendy, for the introduction. So, as you've heard, my name is Sinead, and I'm the Curriculum Partner for Welsh and International Languages for local authorities across South East Wales. And if I may start with a little background to give the linguistic and education context, Wales, or Cymru, to give its Welsh name, is a multicultural and officially bilingual country, having both Cymraeg, Welsh, and English as official languages. We are home to Cymraeg, Welsh, one of the oldest living languages in Europe, which is spoken in communities across the country. The Welsh Government's national mission is to have 1 million Welsh speakers by the year 2050, and the teaching and learning of Welsh is taught and is compulsory in all schools in Wales up to the age of 16. And here in South East Wales, our schools are either Welsh medium, where all subjects are taught through the Welsh language, except, of course, for English and international languages, and then English medium schools, which have English as a first language, and where Welsh and international languages are taught as L2 or second languages. And with regards to international languages, in 2015, the Welsh Government launched its Global Futures Strategy, which is a plan to improve and promote international languages in Wales. This strategy was launched in response to the declining number of pupils choosing to take an international language for GCSE and beyond. And just for your information, GCSEs are the national examinations that pupils sit at the age of 15 to 16 years old, and AS and A levels are examinations which pupils sit between the ages of 17 to 19 if they choose this pathway. And the Global Future Strategy is now in its 10th year, and the strategic aims are to support multilingualism in schools and increase the number of young learners studying languages at all levels. So, international languages are not compulsory beyond the 3rd year of high school, which are pupils aged 13 to 14, But our new curriculum for Wales for ages 3 to 16, implemented in 2022, saw international languages on the curriculum for primary schools for the first time. And within the language, literacy and communication area of learning and experience in our purpose-led curriculum, it states that learning and experience in this area aims to enable learners to communicate effectively using Welsh, English, and international languages. It aims to encourage learners to transfer what they have learned about how languages work in one language to the learning and using of other languages. This multilingual and plurilingual approach is intended to ignite learners' curiosity and enthusiasm and provide them with a firm foundation for a lifelong interest in the languages of Wales and the languages of the world, and thus to make them ambitious, capable learners ready to learn throughout their lives. So in our quest to raise the numbers of pupils opting to choose at least one international language at GCSE and beyond, and also to raise standards in teaching and learning, and therefore pupil progress and outcomes in all languages, including Welsh, we are always looking to see what's out there on the language teaching landscape to engage, enthuse, and inspire teachers and learners alike. And it is thanks, therefore, to Jill, my colleague and co-presenter, who you will hear from shortly, and the fabulous groundwork in Sanako technology that she has led and is leading at Monmouth Comprehensive that allowed us to get this project funded and up and running. Diolch, Wendy.
Can I just say, I noticed a couple of people have raised their hands. Would you be able to put any questions that you have in the Q&A section, please? Thank you.
And with that, to our Sanako Group Talk project, which has for the past year provided teachers with the opportunity to incorporate the very latest Sanako technology to try to do just that, enthuse, engage, and support learner progress in speaking. From our original 11 project schools, we now have 15 schools on board using Sanako at various points of development to ultimately answer the following questions. Diolch, Wendy. What is the impact of implementing Sanako Connect and Group Talk on pupils' language progression and confidence? Does the use of Sanako technology impact positively on pupils' engagement with languages? How and why? And are there similarities, differences across the different languages? Merci, Wendy. 6 project leads from 6 schools were interviewed for wave 1 of the evaluation based on implementation over the course of 1 year plus. And these project leads were the early adopters and were able to implement from the beginning the technology with their chosen class or classes and able to see and report on its impact. So 2 of the project schools have also hosted Sanako Tilt Days, Technology in Language Teaching Days, Monmouth being one, and also Bedwas Comprehensive. And Bedwas have been seeing real impact on the teaching and learning of Welsh. And they've also presented their findings to Welsh Government. And perhaps, Wendy, you will expand further on the Sanako Tilt Day, which you ran with Bedwas later in the webinar. Lessons observations took place in 2/3 of schools. The project leads are using the language learning platform Sanako across a range of languages, for example, French, Spanish, German, and of course, Welsh. The platform is used mainly with year 10 and 11 students in GCSE classes and groups, and also learners at 11 to 14 years old, which is the first 3 years of high school. And as we can see, some pupil voice feedback and clips have also been captured, and we'll see later. Kitos, Wendy. So how are teachers implementing Sanako into their schemes of learning and lessons? Well, firstly, they plan for short, sharp, focused lessons to support classroom speaking and pronunciation practice based on the speaking and listening focus. They are setting homework and revision tasks through Sanako Connect and therefore getting the benefit of added time beyond lessons. Teachers are also using it to deliver assessment tasks, especially speaking assessments. And teachers are also able to easily capture and evidence learner progress in speaking for senior leadership, which for our teachers is incredibly important, as senior leaders who are not linguists are only now coming to realise that in order to generate confident speakers in any language, they are not going to see pages of content in books during book looks or book scrutiny. Gracias, Wendy. So all of the teachers who we interviewed unanimously agreed that implementing Sanako Connect had impact on learner progress, confidence, and or engagement with the language. We all know, don't we, that teachers are so busy and so pressed for time that unless something has impact, they would immediately say so and not use it. And this was obviously not the case for Sanako, as we will see. Diolch, Wendy. So in Wales, we have a new GCSE specification coming, ready for teaching from September 2025, with first examinations in 2027 for Welsh and international languages. And the new specification has an increased focus on speaking, which, as I mentioned, is reflected in our curriculum for Wales 3 to 16 years old continuum. Pupils will also have to do some reading aloud for the first time in international languages. So we asked the teachers, why did they apply to be part of the project? Well, as we can see in this representative example slide here, pupil voice said that they lacked confidence in speaking skills. Pronunciation is hindering marks. And I don't know how it is in your schools, but in schools in South East Wales, at years 11 to 14 years old, the average for international languages is 3 hours over 2 weeks, with a few schools still as low as 1 hour a week. So how teachers are meant to get confident language learners is baffling. Our most recent addition to the project wrote to me, having heard about the project from a neighbouring school, saying, "We are absolutely desperate to implement Sanako. We feel it would be so beneficial to our pupils as they are very hesitant when it comes to speaking another language." So in this example here, following a year of implementation, we can see from this teacher's slide, for example, the progress capture here from pupils and how they feel that Sanako has helped with pronunciation, developed speaking, and has helped make progress. So a year on from implementation, what are the impact headlines? Vielen Dank, Wendy. So firstly, increased engagement and participation in language lessons. Our teachers reported to us that learner engagement across all groups has increased when using the Sanako language learning platform, and that they enjoy using the system to learn. Reluctant learners are also now more willing to participate in lessons. The repetition and practice elements have had a big impact on learner confidence. Learners are engaged and enjoy challenging themselves. And this is linked to our second headline, which is improved confidence and engagement in pupils' language learning. Teachers also reported that progress in speaking confident is evident. And I was able to see this in lessons, for example, during group talk observations following the Sanako session. The build-up exercises through Sanako are bespoke to the learners in that class and tailored to their learning. The pupils can also access and practice from home. It helps develop independence and encourages interactivity. Additionally, wearing headphones improves concentration during individual activities, and pupils become less self-conscious when practicing and and speaking and pronunciation with headphones. And I've seen this with my own eyes. They go into some kind of zone where everything else is blocked out. Diolch, Wendy. Improvement in pronunciation was also seen across the taught languages. The Sanako Connect pronunciation feature has really had impact on pupils' confidence, according to the teachers, and improved pronunciation across the taught languages. Getting the 5-star reward provides that individual challenge and motivation for pupils to keep going until they get it right. It supports resilience and taps into that element of individual competition. Teachers also reported on the next headline, which is increase in homework engagement and independent practice. Learners are more willing to complete homework tasks when used via Sanako language learning platform, and also when preparing and revising for assessment, than when they were asked to practice with their books or other methods. Teacher and learner feedback suggests that this is due to the instant feedback, especially with pronunciation or the automatically marked tasks. More pupils complete homework regularly, and most pupils are happy to practice independently via the platform. And this in turn, of course, positively impacts learner progress and supports classroom learning. Another headline reported by teachers was improved results in speaking assessments. In one school, 100% of pupils aged 14, year 9, achieved 80% or more in their assessment, which was far higher than in previous years. While in another school, year 8, age 12 to 13, role play schools improved with an average score of 75% following the use and practice with Sanako. One school has also reported that this year's Year 11 mock oracy exam in preparation for GCSE reflected learners' improved pronunciation, and that this was evident compared with previous years, and that this will have a real and positive impact on pupils' grades and outcomes. And the last but not least impact was that heads of languages who had overall responsibility for all languages could see the benefit in transferring this over to English as well, and because of the personal presentations and speaking that they have to do for the exam in the new specification. Nessa, diolch, Wendy. So I'll leave you to read some pupil voice for yourselves, but would it surprise you to know that the majority of these are from 14 to 15-year-old boys? Diolch, Wendy. And finally, 2 different responses to getting the 5 stars, but then nonetheless, 2 satisfied learners with their Sanako practice performance. Jill, over to you.
In answer to your question, yes, you are going to see the features of the platform and exactly how they're used as part of this session, so don't worry about that. If you have any questions, please do put them in the Q&A, and I'll either answer them straight away if that's relevant, or we'll wait till the end and answer any questions.
Okay, can you see my screen, Wendy?
Yes, if you just need to do in the presenter mode, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, Great. Okay, right. So if I go back, so yeah, thank you, Shauna. There are lots and lots of links that I'm going to do. So I'll do a brief introduction. As mentioned, I'm a head of international languages at Monmouth Comprehensive. Our school is a comprehensive school for students aged 11 to 18 years old. We're located in the countryside in a small town of Monmouth in South Wales. We're quite a big school. We have 1,800 students on roll. And we teach, as Wendy mentioned, German, French and Spanish, offer these for GCSE, which again is our national exam, which students sit at the age of 15, 16. But we also offer opportunities for students to learn Italian, Mandarin, because we really feel that the range of languages is really beneficial to students. Our vision is to provide all the students with the opportunities to learn languages and see their importance. And as mentioned, students have the choice to study a language for their GCSEs. I would say in Britain generally and in Wales, we're facing a real challenge of students wanting to study a language in competition with other subjects like history, geography. And as teachers, we need to try and find ways to inspire, encourage students to study languages. So I'm pleased to say that there are some really positives about our languages at Monmouth, and how Sanako's been a really kind of contributing factor of that over the past few years. And it does have a happy ending at Monmouth, I hope, and a happy beginning, perhaps, of languages. So I'm here to talk about Sanako this evening and the positive impact it's made on student engagement and progression. So let's get to it. Right, so we've been using Sanako Connect since probably about 2021 through COVID. But I met the infamous David Binns, who, as we know, is the CEO of Sanako UK and Ireland, who persuaded me to purchase some Sanako. Originally, it was hardware, and we had no money. And 6 years later, we're still using it and we still have no money. But it's proved very economical, and we again are seeing the real impact of it. So as I mentioned, we started using hardware, and then unfortunately COVID happened, so we couldn't go into school. We couldn't use this hardware that we purchased. So I realized then David and the Sanako team were really good in supporting and said, we're initiating something called Sanako Connect, which is online. We're kind of, trialing it to sustain it through COVID, and it's something we've just continued on ever since. It is accessible through the internet, and I call it my anytime, any place, anywhere kind of software as well. So why Sanako Connect then? So on return to school, we realized we had a huge problem, as Shauna has mentioned, with confidence of students in speaking. They were no longer used to being in class speaking with each other, let alone a foreign language. And they had a real problem with vocabulary, correct pronunciation, and there was a lack of modeling, obviously, as well. So a positive was the students were used to being online. They were used to being able to use laptops as well. So using technology was a big opener for us for being able to use Sanako with our students. So we started to explore Sanako Connect to use as a tool to develop speaking skills, initially with our exam classes for our 15, 16-year-olds for their GCSEs. And I'm going to show you now some of the initial things we trialed and how this has developed then throughout whole school and even through primary schools as well. So we started to explore some simple things. I say simple things to develop vocabulary for our exam classes. So this was using flashcards, which Sanako Connect allows us to produce, question and answers. So, and also pronunciation. And questions and answers are basically multiple choice, where you might have a list of words, a list of mixed up words, and have to match, the students have to match them up or pair them up. There are three very simple tasks, but they're quite effective when students are learning vocabulary. And this has now been updated to make it much simpler. If you have a list of around 15, 20 vocabulary items on an Excel spreadsheet. Simply this will generate it for you in about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And literally you've got 3 exercises you can share with students then as well. So the advantage is that this can be used again, class, at home, and it uses AI for auto marking. So the impact is really positive for both students and teaching. It's a win-win because students can improve their vocabulary and pronunciation and see instant progress. They don't have to wait for any marking or feedback, and teachers can track progress but don't have to mark it. Yes, it's because again, it's just vocabulary testing. So we then also used what we call the advanced recorder, which is part of Sanako and Connect, for what we call general conversation questions. So as part of our GCSE speaking exam, students have to take part in 2 short conversations about different topics, different themes. So to practice, we would record a series of questions, insert and ask the students to listen and record their answers. And students can just insert their answers into the questions. So it means that when you listen to that playback, it sounds like an authentic conversation as well. So it's easy to have the flow and listen to the flow of the conversation. What's really good about this tool as well, we discovered, was that you can also offer verbal or written feedback. So again, we really liked the verbal because that meant that we could record our feedback onto the student recording by inserting our comment. And actually at that exact point, it could pinpoint perhaps mispronunciation, something you wanted to highlight that was positive. And again, that face-to-face feedback, without being face-to-face, but the students hearing the audio feedback is really effective, we found. We also use this for role plays and photo card discussions. Now, these again will be part of our GCSE exam and preparation for the activities. And photo cards are particularly when students must initially describe a photo in as much detail as possible and then discuss a wider topic. So you can see the student looks very stressed out over his preparation for his exams. And again, there will be some specific questions about the photo, but then generally about exams, school, stress, perhaps as well. What work they did, what they're intending to do. There's a wider kind of range of scope of discussion there. So when we started this, we were just setting the task about, okay, they had to describe and they had to record their responses. And then we met the wonderful Wendy, who's online at the moment, who started to, when she started to work with Sanako, she then started to show us how she would produce some things and introduce some content. And from that, she modeled for us some good practice. So for example, then a photo card with a response could be used as part of a listening comprehension, and that would be modeled for students. And we benefited from this because then we would go away and try and adapt our own then as well. And I would definitely say this with the Sanako team, that they offer very practical support and innovation in teaching. So there's a lot of tech tools we can all buy online or purchase online that are very what I would call content driven. And students can use without teacher intervention. So they can run through a model, they can be tested, it can all be AI marked. But for us as teachers, without teacher intervention is not teaching for me. And therefore that is not good teaching and learning because you need the intervention of the teacher. So I think Sanako allows us to use it as a tool for teaching and to improve practice. But we need to remember that interaction in classroom is still key. And Sanako Collect allows teachers to adapt what they want to produce for our educational context and again see the benefits for our own students. And that's particularly what appealed to us. So later on then, we discovered live discussion. So again, I would say when we started with Sanako, we started very small and just kind of created more and more and more as we got more confident. And I think that's a tip in teaching sometimes, isn't it? Innovation comes from trialing things that are quite small initially, by taking a risk and being adventurous, but allowing yourself to actually bed it in and become more confident with it. Because if we don't do that, staff and students are kind of floundering a bit or flapping around and getting confused. So this live discussion was another thing then we developed. This is a great time saver for teachers and also ensures students are all engaged. So for example, we could pair them or group them for discussions. We could use them just speaking one-to-one, practice, listening. And again, we've got to describe what you see. Now, what's interesting about this is that I kind of just explored it with asking a question in a language to an entire group. And all the students can respond at the same time. And this allows me to collect their recordings all at the same time. So then, yes, I have to listen to them individually later and give them feedback, which I would normally do. But the amount of time that saves is amazing. Because again, I'm asking questions to a whole class that are all responding at the same time and can record their responses. And to me, that's a game changer. So already within the first 2 years, we were using this quite confidently with our exam students. And we saw a real level of increased confidence, positive outcomes in their speaking exams, with this being the best result really as well in their GCSE. We also started using this at the same time with A-level students. So A-level students would be our 16 to 18 students. And these are the exams they would again take, perhaps needed for university too, in specialized subjects. So at a higher, more in-depth level. This really did help a lot of the A-level students with their speaking as well when they were giving in-depth presentations and discussions. So now that we've discussed kind of how we used with exam classes and older students, I wanted to explain to you how then we explored this, then we developed this with our younger students, so our 11 to 14. So we started at the higher age range and then kind of brought it down. And as part of Learn a Voice, when we did this Learn a Voice about languages, it was very clear in our year 7, so that's our very first year of high school, of age 11 to 12, that actually they really wanted to do more speaking. Now, learners often want to be able to speak a language authentically, but without being aware of the hard work that you have to put in and about the language learning journey. So somehow we need to make that fun and engaging. So I want to also share with you some of the factors as well that go into that. And Sanako really helps with the engagement, progress and impact. So this is also a year 11 learner voice, where when they were doing their practice exams before their national exams that they're currently going through, they even identify Sanako as being really useful as part of their revision, and also even requested more activities for doing for listening as well. And I'm a great believer as a teacher of listening to what students want, because also if we listen to what they want and what they're enjoying, then we can use that to engage them, to support them further in their learning. And we know that's going to engage them even more then as well. So we've definitely seen an improvement amongst the younger groups of engagement and the younger age group. We tend to use the pronounce activity. So this is again another function in Sanako Connect, where students can listen to a sentence and that can be modeled for them in any language. And then they have to try and pronounce it, repeat it. And it then just very, very quickly marks them on a 5-star rating. The sense of achievement, I think, was mentioned when you saw about the 5-star ratings from 2 students earlier with Seaned. The sense of achievement and satisfaction for students and the sense of competition is really tangible in a classroom when this is being used. So I'm just going to show you a quick snapshot of 2 classes. And again, as a teacher, we don't often have the time to step back and look at our classes because we're usually answering a question or trying to prepare something or do something. We're very busy in the classroom. And sometimes it's really nice to just step back and look at what students are doing. And these are two fantastic moments where I just thought, I've got to capture this. I've got to quickly video this, because this was a moment where, for me, every student is engaged. Every student is speaking in a language. And it was just those tangible moments. So I'll just try and share them with you. It doesn't matter if sound quality isn't that bad, because it's just, you can get the idea, I hope. So this is a Year 8 French lesson, and then I'm going to show you Year 7 Welsh. So you can see there is not one student there. They're all, and they're not just speaking, chatting to each other. They are literally practicing on this pronounce activity. So it's that lovely, lovely buzz. So I'm just going to try and get this one as well. Just move this up a little bit. Now, what's great about some of these students as well is that we know in a class that, all children are not perfect. They're not all wanting to engage. And also there are a lot of shy, reluctant speakers, perhaps students who don't engage. And that is, as I said, really tangible moments for me. So it's really an important tool to use in the classroom for me, to support confidence and pronunciation, to enable students then to have those face-to-face discussions. So it's not only about confidence and aptitude and development in a language, it's about developing confidence in our social interactions as well. And I really think that Sanako has helped this. And I've got a really good anecdote that I always quote about a student that has joined my exam class for German. And he was very kind of, what's the word, disengaged, did not want to engage, did not want to speak. Came into the class, and I wouldn't ask him any questions because I know he wouldn't respond. We started using Sanako Connect for some short activities, and I gently saw a change in him, because then he started to answer questions in class. So he had the confidence to do that, and he would actually put up his hand and volunteer the answer. And then when we started to do the conversation questions, practicing for the oral exam, again, he's starting to engage this. And I'm really delighted to say that he completed his speaking exam for his GCSE two to 3 weeks ago now. And I was so proud of his level of speaking. I'm confident that he is going to pass. And it's due to the level of confidence, I think, that he got from that vocabulary immersion and pronunciation that Sanako started off to give him. It's one tool, it's not everything, but obviously all the tools put together, we make for a successful outcome, don't they? And that's what we need to have a look at. So, oh, sorry, I'll switch those off. So we're now using Sanako Connect for all now of our also speaking assessments in Year 7, 8 and 9, which, just to refresh, is Years 11 to 14, age group Year 11 to 14 in high school. So these 3 age groups, this is an example of general conversation questions that we might do. So we do the preparation in class, we prepare, we've always looked at reading and listening as well. And then the actual assessment, they can see at the task. So again, this is amended from, what we learned from Wendy's modeling, is we'd model a student example, they'd have some comprehension questions to be able to understand that. They'd have some gap fill, they do some pronounce activities to practice, and then they could actually record their own responses to the general conversation questions. So again, it's building and scaffolding that learning, but also making sure that students can do it. Again, it's a time saver, but also it's all in one place. And again, it's modeled to give them that security. So it's also very time effective. This would take about 20-25 minutes, so we would do it in class. Just think of the time this would take if you were doing it face to face with individual students. Yes, we do have to then listen to this and mark it, but as I always say, that's what we do as teachers, isn't it? So we do mark, but obviously by some of the AI marking that we would do, it would increase the amount of activities students can do, but it's a combination of both. And I think we have to remember that it is a combination. We don't rely, do we, on computers and tools to do the teacher's job. That is our responsibility too. But this is a great tool to be able to use to support that. And again, I would probably recommend using verbal feedback because, again, it's a lot quicker, and you know, students really like the verbal feedback and want to kind of listen to your verbal feedback in your voice. So here are some examples then very quickly of how we use a photo card for Spanish as well. So we'd import, so you can import videos and photos to comment on, and that's very easy to do in the format, and give them the opportunity to verbally respond and record their responses. So if I just carry on. Okay, and then when students were asked about their use of Sanako, the responses are really positive. I think this was mentioned by Seaned as well, that it's easy for them to use. So like anything we use in classrooms, yes, we do have to train our students. Yes, they will have to be trained like we would in anything in a classroom. And yes, we could lose internet connection, or yes, someone's mic not work. That is, isn't it, as teachers, we're quite used to our role as a teacher being able to adapt, be flexible, cope with this. But believe me, to invest the time of a series of lessons to well train our students, the impact is really worth it. So as Sean had mentioned then, we are also part of a group of teachers using group talk. So this is an idea which was created by Greg Horton, a lead practitioner in languages, and this project won a European award. I know Wendy has done a lot of training on this and has a lot of links, and she may want to mention this later about, if you want to know more about it, I know Wendy has links that she can perhaps put in the chat about the group talk project. The idea, though, is generally to encourage spontaneous speaking by giving students some word maps of key phrases for discussion, such as opinions and agreement phrases or disagreement phrases, to enable them to discuss a photo or a theme more spontaneously, and they build that up from 4 stages. So they start with some phrases, and once they've mastered those, they can go on to the next stage. And so we started to introduce this. We started practicing the phrases using Sanako Connect. So students are aware of the phrases, pronunciation. And then this enables students at the start of a lesson to try to use it more independently. Now, again, apologies, the sound quality is probably nothing on this, so I'm not even going to play them. But actually, these are 2 videos I took, and you can see in the first shot that students have some word maps in front of them. And from this, they were a little bit more staggered. They were constantly looking at their word maps. They were trying to have a discussion about sports and hobbies. And when we go onto the second recording, they're already, I mean, you can even see if you look at the girl in the inside on the right, you can even tell the body language is very different, because you can see that she's smiling in the second one, looking more relaxed. She's looking a bit more focused and concentrated on the first one. They all look a bit more relaxed in the second one. And it's interesting because they didn't have the support of the sheet then, because they had to do it without that and spontaneously speak. And the standard is reasonably good because they're using kind of learnt phrases they become accustomed to, but then introducing gently other items of vocabulary, specific vocabulary items from a theme. So that's really a really positive thing, I think, as well, where they can practice using Sanako and combine it with classwork as well. And as I keep saying, you know, technology is a tool for learning, but it's a very valuable tool if used well too. So then we brought it down even further. We developed with our primary schools a project then, which we focus really on years 3 and 4. So it's age group of 7 to 8-year-olds now. And these are students that eventually come to us after year 11. And we developed this project with the wonderful Wendy. Wendy had already created a project of fairy tales, and we just kind of merged this a little bit, this project, with Sanako. The schools can select, the overview of the project is the schools can select French, Spanish or German, and we have resources for them for a fairy tale. So we have 3 different fairy tales. and they have some training with us. The idea is that they explore the fairy tale with their students. They look at the words, the phonics, the sounds, and understand it, and then recreate it by performing it in a celebration event at our school at the end of the year. Some bring 1 or 2 classes, so normally we have about 250 students involved, and as I said, we set up training with the teachers, so if they need any support using Sanako, because what we also do is put all of the resources and the phrases on Sanako, where students can practice the pronunciation of their lines, script, and have that awareness of phonics too and sounds. And then hopefully they'll come to us with curiosity and enthusiasm too. And then the last thing, finally, the impact. So the impact has been amazing on the confidence of students, but the outcomes, as we can see, so on the left-hand side is a little kind of graph of outcomes in year 7 of speaking. Now, normally in languages, we could see probably a little bit of a weighting lower down. The average of year 7 speaking is approximately about 78%. So that's very, very good. And it's not because we're being generous in our marking, it's because they are improving and becoming more confident speakers. The most exciting impact for us, though, has been the uptake for languages, which from a 20%, so again, as if I can explain, students choose a language. It is not compulsory for them. They choose a foreign language at GCSE. They don't have to take it. So therefore, from an average of 20% average and even 10% last year, we've gone up to 65% of the cohort choosing to take a language for GCSE. That is phenomenal. And I think that is something we've been working on for the last 3 years. It is the impact. I would put it down to our choice of languages, our changes in pedagogy, particularly our digital usage and using Sanako Connect. I would also mention that, again, David Binns came in to talk to both students and parents. And I would also say parents are a big influence as well. And I think that made a great influence. So thanks to David for making such an impact on that. Using Sanako has definitely made an impact on us. Again, we have been using it for 6 years. So again, you know, it's little, and I'm still always learning more from the team. It raises engagement, confidence, it impacts on outcomes and progression. And all of these strands come together to improve attitudes, raise interest and enthusiasm in language learning, which is what our aims are. So, and that's it really. Thank you for your attention tonight. Please email if you want to know any further information or ask in the chat now. And I hope you'll explore what Sanako has to offer, as it definitely made a difference to our school and particularly our learners. Thank you. Over to you, Wendy.
I think Sanako was a very good help, especially going into our exam, because it helped us with our confidence and just being prepared for it. Because going into an exam, it's quite difficult and quite nerve-wracking, and it's not really that, you don't really have that much confidence. But with Sanako, we kind of got used to talking to other people in a different language.
Just realised that you can't hear me. Could you just hear that, what I just showed? You could. All right, great. Okay. So I think it's great to hear from teenage boys, especially, that they're actually practicing with the computer. They're either practicing their pronunciation and getting feedback straight away through AI, or they're actually speaking to each other in a classroom situation, having that it recorded and getting feedback from their teacher. But then it's lovely, and it's not all about exams, as we know, but A speaking exam, and I certainly remember this both at school and at university, the speaking exams were the scariest exams ever. They're so much harder than writing. And if students can develop confidence, and we know that we're teaching an anxious generation, don't we? Our students are more anxious than ever before. And anything that can help them with developing confidence has got to be a positive thing. So I'm just going to share just a little bit to show you what Sanako Connect looks like as a student. And this was something that I just created today, actually. So as Jill said, we can embed pictures and also video clips. So I've got a little video here. I'm hoping that will...
Millions of people across Spain and Portugal have been hit by massive power cuts. Trains stopped, planes were grounded, and there was chaos on the roads. So
we can create gap-fill activities. You can set, when you create it, when you find, say, a video from YouTube, you don't have to, students don't need to watch all of it. So you can set the parameters and decide maybe you only want them to watch 1 or 2 minutes of it, however much you want. You can create gap-fill activities such as this, and all of this will get automatically marked by the computer. You can do drag and drop activities that could match halves of sentences or meanings between, say, English and the language you're teaching. We can have this, I think the answer to this is plunged into darkness. This is what happened yesterday in Spain and Portugal. So that this would be part of the listening activity, and this would automatically be marked, and then students can submit their work. This is something that I created earlier around teaching gender in Spanish. And ¿Crees que la sociedad trata por igual al... I can slow down anything up to about 0.75, so I can slow things down when I listen. I can listen to it as many times as I like, or you as the teacher can set the number of times a student is allowed to listen. So if you want it more of an assessment situation. And lots of teachers say to me, and I go in and support teachers in schools, is they really like the fact that students can work independently on these activities at their own pace. It frees the teacher up then to go and provide individual support. And lots of us are teaching mixed ability classes, so we've got students who will go faster or slower, and the chance for them to have that more personalised learning is really beneficial. That was another activity where students would complete sentences. That was a gap fill. We can have multiple choice activities in here as well. We can ask students to summarise things and type in, or even do transcripts, so dictation style activities. And then I'm going to show you something now. This is something in Spanish. We can paste in a paragraph or some sentences, and the computer will automatically make a series of usually sentences where students, we've talked about the pronunciation tool. This is a really popular tool, and it's great for all ages of students to practice their pronunciation of another language and get feedback on it. So we can listen to an example. We can prefer a female voice, for example. We can slow it down a little bit.
Una de las claves más importantes es la educación.
Una de las claves más importantes es la educación. Okay, there's always a little bit of a worry there when I'm probably speaking to lots of Spanish speakers here. So the computer has fortunately liked my Spanish, which is great. If I've mispronounced any words, then it would highlight and underline those words, and it wouldn't give me the 5 stars, and I could move on to the next and so on. I'm just going to submit that, even though I've not quite finished it. And also Jill talked about students can also record answers to a series of questions, and the teacher can listen to their answer and give them some feedback. And Jill talked about being able to do assessments. So because this gets automatically marked, I know there's a school that I've been working with in part of England called Chester, called Upton School, and I worked with their teachers to help them develop a series of assessments that didn't just cover listening and speaking, but also the reading and writing skills as well. So it covered all 4 of the language skills. There was a listening activity there. There were some translations into English. There was some pronunciation, and everything was marked by the computer. So the teacher didn't have to do any of the marking, and the teachers thought this was brilliant in terms of reducing their workload, which is obviously a big issue. And then Jill also talked about some vocab practice. So just very quickly, you can paste it. It takes about 20 seconds. You put in a spreadsheet with either words or phrases in the target language and the student's native language, and the students can check if they're not quite sure. They can go through a series of flashcards and check the answers and move on, so they can learn some. This is Romanian. I think we've got some Romanian people on the call. Then they can type in the answers and translate these and submit it, and it would automatically be marked. They can also do practicing their pronunciation here. So we can say that, listen to an example, say it in just the same way, and also do a drag and drop activity to practice the words. So very quickly, if you've set the students some homework and you want them to learn some vocab, you can actually give this as their test either in the lesson, or you can set this for homework and you can check whether they actually have done the learning. And as we know, retrieval practice, students actually looking at the words, learning and thinking about it, is one of the key ways that students can memorize a language, which is so important no matter what language you teach. And then just finally, teachers can also start a live activity. They can launch an activity where students can be set up with headsets and microphones to discuss in pairs, or the speaking practice where the teacher would ask a question, or the students would hear the same question and would answer it into their microphone, and every single student's separate conversation would be recorded, or separate answers to an assessment type of set of questions. I'll just show you here quickly. I've only got one student in my imaginary class here, but it just gives you an idea of what it looks like. As long as you click start recorders, all of the students speaking is recorded. You can go and visit a pair and listen to them. You can even go incognito, so the students wouldn't know that you've arrived and listened, and then you can then speak to them and give them some immediate feedback. You can do things like share your screen, and if you use cameras, those can be on as well. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what happens there. Everything gets recorded, and then you as the teacher can see, for example, today's date, this pair group discussion. We just had one submission. This was the name of my imaginary student in the class, and I could now listen to what she said. I could download it. I could give some general feedback by typing, and I can also give some audio or video feedback that the student would then see next time they log in and join the lesson. They can either see it live in a lesson, or they can also see it at home if they log in as well. And this works on any device. It works really well on tablets and mobile phones, so students can do homework on a phone, and obviously they've got really good microphones, so it's not limited to PCs or laptops. So it is now 6 o'clock. I'm aware that there has been a few questions, and I do want to try and answer them. So we aren't providing certificates for this session today because we have had 450 participants. So I'm sorry that we won't be able to do that. I can see that we've had a question about, has anyone had challenges with students being low-tech literate and therefore find it harder to use Sanako, perhaps older adult learners? Any tips or advice? What I would say is myself and Jill and Shawned, we actually work mainly with school-age students who are more tech literate than we are actually. David, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that with your wider experience. I've just
we've not had too many issues, and if I can be brutally honest, the issues tend to be the teachers using the technology and not the students. And I accept that some older people may struggle with this modern technology, which is why we run a program of user training sessions. You can have the best product in the world, but if people can't use it, it's not very good. So I would always recommend getting in touch with your Sanako team, your local team, whoever they may be, and just arrange a training session. We can do it very quickly online, or you can contact us here in the Sanako in the UK. We're fairly easy to contact. Just get in touch and we will organise something.
And also Sandra Aguilera has also given some helpful advice, hire language lab coordinators to help adult learners with the technology. But we do find that the interface, once students are using it, it's very sort of intuitive and user-friendly. And even more recently, Sanako Finland HQ have been updating, and they're always improving the software to make it even more user-friendly. So we've not ever had any, and we work actually with universities as well and students, and we've not had any reports of major issues. So we will stay on the line for another few more minutes if anyone else has got any questions and or any comments. And thanks everyone for being part of this. I hope you found it interesting. I've certainly been teaching languages for 30 years, and I find that I think Sanako Connect is one of the best tools that I've ever found, and it's improving all the time using the very latest in AI technology. But it's one of the most useful ways that I've ever found to encourage, in particular, that skill of speaking, which can be so challenging for students. That both the examination is hard, but also getting students to speak in a lesson is really hard with a big class of, say, 30 students. How can a teacher get around and listen to every single, say, pair that are having a conversation? Or even the classroom management side, like how do you know the students at the back of the class are actually doing the thing that you want them to, and not just chatting about what they've been doing last weekend? So actually keeping them focused. The behaviour management side is excellent. The fact that when they're doing the speaking, they know that you as the teacher can jump in and visit their discussion at any time, and also the fact that everything's recorded, so it keeps them really focused. It means that their behaviour for learning is so much better. I've got a few more questions here. Yes, it is Sanako software. It's not free, and I would recommend contacting www.sanako.com for more information about how to purchase it. But you do get a free trial. So if you want to have a trial we offer a free trial of 3 months here in the UK, and it allows you to try it with your students and see if it's useful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Svetlana. It is a paid version, as I said, but you can get the free trial. I think it is a good value for what you get, and it's a subscription model. So you would subscribe to Sanako Connect and then pay an annual fee. But it is best to contact sanako.com, which is unless you're a UK, but either UK or Ireland, is sanako.co.uk, but the sanako.com is where you can fill in the contact form and get in touch and find out based on your country and your number of users how much that would cost. Okay, so I think we are pretty much done here. So I'm going to stop my recording now.